Listen, we can do pledge allegiance and listen to the accountant or the auditor.
Yeah,
We're not making a decision.
we can't make a decision.
Because we already made a decision to the auditor.
Yeah.
Okay? Yep. So we can do that.
Join us in the pledge if you want. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just by way of announcement, we don't have a quorum here tonight, so we can't, or we should have a quorum a little bit later, but we don't have a quorum right now, so we'll only talk about things. We won't take any official action. And first on the agenda tonight is Millinson Heath Auditor's Entrance Conference and Management Letter. And we have someone?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you introduce yourself, because we're coming up on a live video feed.
I'll just sit up here a little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm Pat Squilanti. I'm a partner in charge of this audit. I'm out of the Greenfield, Massachusetts office of our firm. We have 5 offices. And we had done the audit for the town. 2010 was the last year that we had done the audit. We were scheduled to do, or planning to do, the 2011 audit, and the town opted to defer that and do 2012 instead. And so that's what we're, I think, part of what we're here to talk about. It's just, from my perspective, you know, it's important that I think you, as a board, understand what an audit does or doesn't do, and what our responsibilities are, and what your or management's responsibilities are. And also to, you know, as an entrance conference purpose, to get an idea if there's any areas of concern that you have as a board, or any area or department or what have you that you want us to look at in particular. So from my perspective, I just really wanted to give a framework for how we do an audit and what's involved in that.
Pat, did we do an audit in 2009 too?
Yes.
Okay, so we've done 2 audits. This will be the 3rd one with you.
Yes, and I don't think we did 2008. I think 2009 was
Yeah,
the
I
first
think
one.
so.
I didn't have a chance to look back that far, but
I just want to make sure we
Yeah.
did 2 prior ones. and
yes,
this will be the
we
3rd
definitely
one.
have two.
And
Yeah.
before we get going, I know we have town accountant here. Should we have anybody else from town offices here to listen in, just to cover any bases?
No, I think the accountant is going to be the most key
Okay.
person to hear this part of it. You know, there's a conceptual part of doing an audit that I want. I'm happy that the board wants to hear about. And then there's the, you know, nuts and bolts, items needed list kind of thing that we will send to your accountant when we get a little closer to doing the field work, or, you know, until you're comfortable with your year end, or you may be there already, having closed or whatnot. So, and, you know, yeah, certainly have any questions, or if I'm not going in the right direction, you know, let me know. One of the things that I think is important to understand is an audit. A lot of people have a misconception of what an audit is. There's a feeling that if you have an audit, every dime is spent correctly, every law has been complied with, and that's just not economically possible. You know, you couldn't afford to have an audit that would give you that level of assurance. So an audit, an independent external audit, is structured within a framework called Generally Accepted Government Audit Standards, GAGS. And those standards set out how we approach an audit. And we are responsible for evaluating the internal control procedures over your key transaction cycle. So we look heavily at how are vendor disbursements made, how are payroll disbursements made, what controls are in place there, what controls are in place over departmental receipts, and accounts receivable, and so forth. Because those are the ones that are most material to your financial statements. Our responsibility is really to take your financial statements, to apply these procedures, to look at your internal control. We also do what are called substantive procedures, meaning, which is what I think most people associate an audit with, such as, you know, are your cash balances supported? You know, is there actually money in the bank for that? Is there a reconciliation for that? Do your receivables, are they supported by a detailed list of, you know, Joe Smith owes you X dollars, that kind of thing. So we do that as well, but we also do a lot of internal control evaluation. And then if you ever get to a point where you spend over $500,000 in federal grant funds, you'll be required statutorily you'd be required to have a federal grant audit. It's called a single audit. You haven't reached that point. We have a lot of clients that are in this last year because of all the disasters that have happened. What an incredible year. So for FY12.
I won't say we're close, over it, but we're close.
Yeah.
And probably with some other federal aid that came into the school, we might be close.
Yeah, well, that's, it's important to know there's different deadlines when you have that requirement. If you have to comply with that, you would have to have your financial statements and the grant audits done and submitted by March 31st. So, and that's, every one of my clients is June 30 year end. So right now in fall, it's like the equivalent of my tax season. So going on right now. So that's the general framework of how we conduct an audit. There's accepted auditing standards of how we go about that, but we focus most of our attention on where most of your money is. So of course we spend a lot of time with the accountant and treasurer, collector, assessor, and a little bit less so with clerk. And then if there were any major departments, like for you, water, your water receivables and that whole cycle, we spend a lot of time looking at that because it's a lot of dollars to you. And then we look at other general overall procedures like just how do departments do a turnover, what control checks and balances are in place. So we look at that and evaluate that. If you have any major gaps in your internal control process, we report those to you in a management letter. And there's different categories of management letter comments because as we're doing this and going along, we also find areas where a little tweaking would help you, or gosh, you're doing this and you really don't need to, or you're duplicating, or that kind of thing. So we also include in the management letter comments that are intended to really improve your efficiencies and that sort of thing. But we are absolutely responsible for reporting to you anything that is either considered a significant deficiency, meaning it's a hole big enough that something bad could happen, or a sort of higher level is called a material weakness, so something so bad that it could materially affect your financial statements. Could happen because you don't have appropriate control. As auditors, we are, it's an odd relationship because you hire us, we're sort of in a way critiquing, your operations. And we don't see it as an adversarial relationship, not like being audited like an IRS auditor is coming in and auditing you. We don't, see that aspect of it, but we're also not your consultants. We're not, by independent standards, we're not allowed to do certain things. We can't create bank reconciliations. We can't create your fixed assets. There's certain things that we can't compile or create and then independently be expected to audit it. So there's an inherent conflict there. So we try to help our communities as much as we can. We, encourage them to contact us during the year if they have a question about how to handle something, or a new law that came out or something along those lines. But so we do encourage that contact throughout the year, but we're not like consultants that are there to help you through every stage. And management is actually responsible for management being, board sort of setting the tone at the top, but then who you hire and who you hold responsible for either, in someone in Reggie's position or the accountant, or, depending on if they're elected or appointed, other departments. But management is responsible for compiling really the financial statements, putting everything together and saying, yeah, this is accurate. Now you apply your procedures and tell me if I've got it right or wrong. Management's responsible for if we make recommendations, if they see the value in it, and hopefully we've communicated that clearly enough. Management's responsible for implementing those recommendations. We're responsible for following up when we come to do the next year's audit. If we don't do the next year's audit, then we don't have that contact, so there isn't that continuity.
Now, Pat, currently right now, we have 3 audit agreement with you?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So this is the last of the 3?
I believe so, is that right? Yeah.
Would we be, do we need to talk about a future audit before the end of this audit?
Not if you don't want to. certainly be
But
happy
you
to
just
do
mentioned
that.
something about good practices was to have something in succession.
Yes, if the town's choice is to have an audit every year, not all towns choose to do that. But if you had, a choice to, that's what you chose, to be audited, then, it makes sense for many reasons for it to.
Because I know we went on for many years without an audit.
Right.
And I'm glad we had the audit because I think it brought some things that needed to be addressed and to be straightened out in past audits, which I think has been very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the norm for, say, a municipality or a town? Or
Well, I mean, it depends on the size. DOR recommends every 3 years. We have some that do every 3 years. We have another handful that do every other year.
Now, when you say they recommend every 3 years, is that for a 3-year audit after that?
No.
And then break for 3 years?
No, in other words, you have 1 year audited every third year. So if you did 12, then you would do 15.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I guess, and then you're going to follow up, and I think I heard you say it, but you're going to take what was recommended the last time, and make sure those recommendations are in place or some reasonable facsimile?
Right. In this case, yes, we will really, because typically if there was an FY10 audit and then not another audit until FY12, we would look at the FY10 and probably ask some questions, but we wouldn't do, I don't think as I don't want to say complete a follow-up on it because a year had gone by and other things could have changed, and we sort of would start not from scratch but almost from scratch. But in this case, because the FY10 audit had been done fairly late, and I think this report came out, I think it's dated in August of 11. So, the audit report came out during the year that we would be auditing. So yes, we'll follow up on each of those.
The recommendations, certainly.
Yeah, and the recommendations and responses, too, are, a lot of them are effective with FY12. Starting July 1, starting on April 1, that kind of thing. So it's appropriate to follow up on it.
But we're at the end, so we don't have another audit scheduled, and that's your...
No, we have one more audit,
we
started for 2012.
Right.
Which will
One
start
we're
in March.
The one we're going to do now, but after that one, we don't have...
Correct. Not at this point. Correct. Yeah. And we could, we're, as I say, we have relationships with other municipalities where we do it every other year. So if, or every third year or what have you. So if I knew that's the way the town wanted to go, then that's the way, when the next year came around, I would contact you.
No, I know the last time we did an audit, I don't know if it's your standard procedure or I wanted or Diane wanted or the board wanted, but we had a interpretation of the management letter at the end with all the departments.
Yep.
Is that still part of it?
It can be.
Okay, because I think that's very helpful,
Absolutely.
especially when there's a change of leadership in those
Sure.
areas.
Yep. Yeah. No, I thought it was, I was very happy to do it. And frankly, a lot of communities don't participate at that level. They don't
Well, I like
require
that.
their department heads to.
Well, sometimes I feel the department heads, I don't think they're scared of it, but, they're not at your level with, accounting and procedures.
Right.
They're trying to do the right thing, but
Right.
if they can be tweaked a little better and showed
Right.
an easier way or why we're looking at things and why they have to be done,
Yeah.
sometimes the mechanics fall into play very easily.
Absolutely. And I think that was part of what I thought was great that came out of that meeting, and that's why I really encourage those types of meetings. Because a lot of times what we try for is, if you've got a major problem or a major weakness, or you're not doing reconciliations or something major, that's a big problem, and somebody's got to deal with it right away. A lot of the recommendations that we made, particularly in your case, are more, they're not considered significant deficiencies. They are, this would be better if.
Correct.
And, it's, for us, we really try to do practical recommendations, practical, how are you going to do this? It's nice to just say abstractly, oh, you should do this, but what is he supposed to do? What is he supposed to get? What does it look like? What's it supposed to reconcile to? Those kinds of things. So being able to interact, in a meeting like that, they could ask their questions and we could clarify what we mean.
Well, I'm hoping this time around we have fewer and fewer things to develop or to rectify.
Yep.
Along that lines, do we want to start a policy? I'm trying to remember how many times in my 6 or 7 years on the board we've had an audit, and I can't remember more than one or two.
We only had two.
So my question is, do we want to start a policy of either every year, which seems over the board, or every other year, or every second year, or no more than every third year? But do we want to adopt a policy at this point in time to put the mechanism in place so we don't either budget it or we miss it?
Well, we would know, we would have to do something before the budget season starts, so she can plug that number in.
Right, so I mean, do we want to delay that decision and see if we take it up again, or do we want to take it up now and come up with a solution or a plan that says we're going to audit every other year, every 2 years, every third year?
Yeah, let's,
Well, let me ask
Come
you
up
this
now.
question,
Let's
Pat.
do it now.
You're gonna do the audit in March for 11. That usually takes, what, about 3 months?
By the time you
From
get
start to
over-
finish?
Or, yeah, I mean, it depends, but yes,
So
I'm
that
gonna say
would
2 to 3
put
months.
us out of the budget into another budget. I would just like to know if it's necessary to budget it, if we have a decent audit without too many deficiencies. You know?
Well, and that's my question. First of all, do we want to have an audit? Do we want to have an audit every year? Or is that overkill?
so what's the average? So it's every 3 years,
It's,
some
the
towns?
state recommends every 3 years.
The state recommends every 3
Yeah,
years?
DOR does.
So,
Yes, now, having said that, you know, looking at the management letter and knowing the transitions that have happened here, I think that I think it would be wise to do it more often than every 3 years. I'm not sure that you need it every year, but
how about every other year?
Do they audit the fire department?
Yes,
And the ambulance fund, which
Yeah.
probably needs
Yes.
some particular emphasis?
she had some issues that she talked about with
We
that.
had some issues with the ambulance, billing and stuff. But, you know, you had David here forever, and, you know, and you have a transition for that.
Well, whether we put it into next, if we're going to do it every year, then we need to really decide now and plug a number in early into the budget season. If we're going to do it every other year, then we can make that decision a little bit later for the next go-around. But the question is, what's the board's pleasure about? I see this as a management issue. Do we want to do it every year, or do we want to do it every other year?
I'd go with the recommendation of this young woman that says every year is probably overkill, 3 years is too far, so let's go in a happy medium of every other year. So I'll move to have an audit for every other year.
Plan on an audit every other year.
Plan on audit every other year.
That puts the boards and departments on notice that our intention is to follow this carefully
Correct.
and not to stay on top of it. Is there a second to that motion?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
And certainly if we come up with recommendations, severe deficiencies in this go-round, we might be in fact going for an audit immediately on the next year.
Right.
And that could happen.
And maybe in the budget season, we ought to plan a contingency or put a number in,
Okay.
maybe not a full budget number,
Half number.
half an audit number. Worst case scenario is we don't spend it and
Gets carried over the next
it's
year.
carried over. But if we need that money, we just have to supplement it and roll with that as an audit right away if we come up with a severe deficiency.
Can I ask what the budget is for an audit?
Forget what the number is.
I thought it was 20,000,
No, this
No.
year's is
14.
short.
14.
Yeah.
14,000.
So my recommendation, if you should put 7,500 each year, if you don't use it, it rolls over to the next.
Well,
We're not killing the budget by looking at.
But we know it won't roll over if we don't spend it on that
No, but
line.
you can transfer it.
Right, yeah, we can make it like it carries, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea.
But we'd also would need to check with your company
Yeah.
to see what you're going, what quote.
Right, I mean, we'll see, you know, where we end up
Yeah,
for
yeah.
this year. You know, we agreed to stay with our price, because
Yeah.
the other, you know, financial economic reality is, if you're, as a town, if you're committed to every other year and your auditors know they can sort of count on that, you know, there's a tremendous amount of documentation, information we have to accumulate. That's, you know, part of a permanent file or how your internal controls roll. And for me, if I'm bidding and I know that it's, you know, 1 year, it's going to be much higher than if I know at least I have a couple of years. And every third year is hard, you know, because you're basically accumulating the same information.
But if we put away the $7,500, at least
Right.
we've got some number to work with.
Yeah. I think,
And a lot of that will depend on Vicky and the treasurer to give
Right.
input on, maybe we don't need one this year, or definitely we need one this year.
right, exactly. I was just going to say, and I think, you know, talking to the departments that are most affected by it too, they'll give you good feedback on
Yes.
whether they want somebody in or not. So.
Anybody got any questions? Do you have any other questions for us?
No, well, only that, are there any areas that you have any particular concerns about for fiscal year 12? I mean, I feel like we'll sort of have our hands, full with.
I think it's just, I won't say the same old, but there is, I think, Vicki came in toward the very end of it, and David was involved with most of it. But I think that transition might be, you have to spend some more time on.
Right.
And stuff like that.
Right.
Interpreting the two different accountant styles.
Right. Yeah. And also what, because I think, I'm assuming that you need to do some of the reconciliation in your end?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
Yeah, trying to figure out where he left off.
Right.
So, I can't speak for what he did previous to when I got here unless I found something that didn't look right to me. So, as Ed said, you're going to have those two different pieces in there. But if you want to, I guess it's only March, right? If you, once it gets to be the beginning of the year, if you want to email me your PDC list.
Yeah, you know what, I'm going to do that now because now is when you're putting that stuff together.
Okay, perfect.
So,
that way I know it,
yeah.
I can make a copy right away and already put it in a folder, so I don't have to dig it out later.
Right. We can talk about a way to transmit that to us.
Yes.
We have a portal.
Okay.
That if you're comfortable with that and your system lets you can upload.
Okay.
So,
Or we can scan it with the new.
Yep, you can do that.
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
Do you need anything more from us?
No, I don't. I just want to give you my card so you know who I am.
Thank you.
If you need anything or you have any questions, anything comes up, please feel free to email me. All right?
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Pat, for coming.
Thank you.
I'm the one that made you come, by the way.
Okay. Was it worth it, Ed?
Yes, it was, because
Good.
I wanted people to know what you did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too.
Trying to move along on something we can work on while we now have a quorum.
Yeah, we have a quorum now.
So,
The school department's here. Want to talk about that?
yeah, but are they on for?
David's in the other
They're
office
not
with me.
specifically on, but the topic of the special town meeting is on, of the article. It's actually on your agenda under signatures for the contracts.
So the school department is under the town meeting?
Yeah, it's,
So we probably should not tackle the school until all the other boards are here?
oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
The
because,
finance committee doesn't have a quorum, but they will be present to listen.
all right, so we're going to ask you, Cindy, to wait until finance comes down in hopefully less than a half hour.
Okay, yeah, that, basically, I guess you got contracts to sign?
Yes. We could do that, I
Yeah,
suppose.
why don't we
Well,
do
that's,
that?
Fine, is that what you're
That's
talking
the
about?
question.
Oh, that's what you're talking about?
Yes, the
Oh, okay.
contract.
That's actually why I'm here.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
These contracts?
You want to start off with my concerns?
Yeah, go ahead.
Cindy, on one of the contracts, I believe for the dollar amount there was some to be determined items, and I needed some little feedback on those 4 items. It's under contract for designer services, attachment A, payment schedule.
Oh, yes.
Okay, are those additional or are they inclusive above?
What it is if, that's contingency, if there were some issues that came up while we were designing the roof, which were not covered in the, I don't know how many pages in the contract.
Okay.
Basically, it would have to be, it would be something they would submit to us. It has to be agreed to by the owner and the designer.
Okay.
It has to, I believe there's some per hour dollar amounts. to it.
Correct, they are.
And that would not come into effect unless there was something came up in the contract which they deemed wasn't covered by the contract.
Okay. Under these basic services, to be determined were construction document phase. Is that, are they going, that's usually done as a boilerplate with school department and the school department of ed? Am I wrong or?
I think, all right, we may be talking about two different things.
Okay,
I
here,
think
why don't
those-
you take a look at this?
I think those two pieces, if that's what it is, it's probably after this contract not only covers the designing in the first place,
Right.
Maybe you have-
okay.
Is it in our
So
packet?
No, they're not in there.
So the project scope, the first
is what
thing
it's-
you're paying for is the beginning stuff.
Correct.
And then as we move along in this process, then they're gonna be determining.
Okay, so those are they haven't been covered yet, but those are
Right.
funds that are gonna be addressed between the school department and the architect.
Right, and this is, I mean, this is after, well, not necessarily the school department, I think the owner.
Well, I don't mean the school department, Department of Ed,
Oh,
because they dictate the verbiage, don't they?
yeah, well, this is kind of a normal contract,
Mm-hmm.
design contract. What those are is as they go through the building, this is, all we're paying for at this point is a design phase.
Okay,
Once they design, then they'll be doing construction documents,
okay,
and then they'll be getting into, then they'll be involved in the bidding, they'll be involved in, once we start putting the roof on, they're going to end up doing, but this, you haven't approved this yet.
we haven't approved that money yet.
You haven't approved that money yet, and that won't, you know, at the time, if.
Because all we really approved was the 55,000.
Exactly.
But that is for the design phase, it
This
doesn't
is-
include those other items.
This is, yes.
So
And
there'll be another time for those other items.
yes, there will be. And just like, you know, the construction bid, at some point, they're gonna tell us we think this is gonna cost X number of dollars, and there'll have to be another vote, another town meeting vote, for the town to approve the additional funds.
So let me ask you this before we sign that, is we anticipate the design work to be done, and then it'll get approval under the design work to go out to bid, and there'll be a dollar amount that we'll have to vote on a bond issue, which will include those?
Yes, it will include these things. The only thing you've approved to date is the project manager
And the architect,
and the schematic design.
okay.
For 22,400?
Yes.
Okay.
And then there's more for the project manager, I think it's 15 or something.
Yes,
These will come in after when they come back and say,
okay.
okay.
Right, so they have to do, it's a matter of like, of priorities. This has to be done, and then they can go on to these other phases.
Right.
You can't put an estimate in there until you've had the schematic.
Exactly.
Correct.
And basically what this contract is saying is you're going to stay with these architects through the end of the project. So that's why they've got the different pieces.
They were to be the ones that determine those areas anyways.
Right, because otherwise, you know, we sign the contract and say schematic plans, gee, that's really nice, but we have somebody else in mind.
Mhm.
This is,
Okay,
Telling
again,
you that-
I'm clarified now, I just didn't know if that money was in the above cost or they're gonna be separate.
no, they're going to be
And they haven't been
separate.
approved yet.
And they have not been approved yet.
Okay.
And they won't be approved until, you know.
We go
get-
we go and get funding for
Right.
the actual construction cost.
Exactly.
Those are my questions.
And I was trying to find the fee for the owner's contract, but every place I look, it's not there. I don't see a number written down.
There's another copy, it's not in here, this is just. a-
No, I've got the owner's agreement here, and you would think it'd be under compensation, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
You would think. Page 6. Article 7. Am I missing something here? There's no number written.
Is that the contract for the,
Owner services. Owner's-
OPM?
yeah, but that's the supplement, that's the addendum.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
Oh, okay, shit.
You're looking for the OPM thing?
I was looking to see what the, you know, when you brought, it said the number about 22 and Cindy said 15, I was thinking the 15 was in this.
yeah, that's what I thought.
I don't find a number anywhere in 15. I mean, I haven't looked everywhere, but,
It's the,
Here.
the thick one.
yeah, you got a number on that agreement, but
It's the thick one at the back,
At the back,
yeah.
you would
It
think.
has, like a spreadsheet of some sort.
There you go.
13,972.
I don't have it here, in our packet.
Tishman. Okay. Any other questions for Cindy?
No,
Oh, there it is. Yeah, there's the 14.
Motions?
I make a motion to sign the contractor's project management services for, what's the dollar amount, 13,000?
13,000.
972.68 cents
Yeah, 13,972.
$13,972.
Okay.
and 68 cents.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we have to sign that other agreement there.
Did you guys vote on the other one?
Not yet.
This is the other one.
Reggie, you'll have to fill in all the titles,
Oh, absolutely.
all the
Now,
stuff.
the other one is to Reinhardt,
Yes.
Reinhardt Associates. I move to,
No, I'm just on the hook. I'm
I
guaranteed.
move to recommend that we sign the contract for Reinhardt Associates for, actually, I think it's 26,000, right? 26,400, 24,600.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We just sign this.
There's 2 copies of each.
You have an estimated time when you're gonna start working on the design?
That's probably when the contract's back.
Well, I know that's the beginning, but,
Yeah.
you know.
When would they, I haven't, no, I don't know.
Okay.
I know once they get to the schematic designs, then it's gotta go back to the department, well, the executive office for building and construction.
Would be helpful,
NSBA.
this is my own recommendation, what would be helpful for the town is if we can get timelines so we can anticipate when you're going to come forward, so we can start planning for this, because it's very difficult to kind of pull it out of the hat with a very little time. So if you can give us certain timelines, how we approach, that, they're getting close to putting the bid documents
We take some
together.
action and make a note.
We need to be considering this vote.
Like earlier meetings,
They did.
Okay?
whatever we did, especially when we're doing the union.
Oh, they did? Okay.
It was in
There's some, Reggie's trying to teach me how to
that big report that I sent on
handwrite them,
Friday.
which would go
Oh,
faster
okay.
for me,
I
but
didn't see it.
that's all I'm doing for it, just so I
think
know what
it is.
action we took.
MSBA sent us the timeline.
Yeah.
What?
So if we get a question about what's going on, I can then look back and say,
Could you email a copy?
Sure. I was just looking for it right now.
yeah, he's supposed to be coming right in.
And Jackie's not here?
Jackie's sick, they said.
Oh.
I missed what's going on, I was talking.
No, we're just talking about planning for the actual construction.
Hopefully the timeline's gonna be so that school is
Be closed.
not.
All right, Housing Authority is not coming in
Oh,
tonight.
okay.
They're not,
Well,
Oh,
it's
postpone.
postponed.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is.
do we
Okay,
wanna do the-
it looks here like the timeline is that,
Do all the,
7:30 is the finance committee, that's not for 25 minutes.
you have
Approve the
to,
minutes?
Yeah,
you have to
Cindy,
do the next, your next approval will probably be by April 30th. They have, a number of timelines here.
hopefully you'll keep us advised as to what's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that the vote probably is gonna be in the spring.
Just remember, the wheels of government move ever so slowly,
Glacially.
probably with good reason.
Yeah,
I thought that was the wheels of justice.
That too.
What did you say?
The municipal wheels move very slowly.
yeah. This one, I thought seriously of going to law school, and then I got involved in a law case, and I decided that I could never do that.
Too slow.
Moves much too slow.
Do you have anything else you need us for?
No, that was it.
Then we signed those, and Reggie will finish filling those in, and we'll get them to you.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Cindy. There's no payroll warrant tonight. There's a bill warrant, W-1316 for $184,006.
I move to approve bill warrant W-1316.
Is there a second?
I can't second
Oh, you can't second.
it. Dave will be back later.
David, we'll just have to,
Can't you second it if I move it?
no. We don't have a quorum, I'm missing. Wait, he can't vote on it, so you gotta sign. No matter what, we've come to the conclusion, you have to sign those, otherwise, we'll talk about the wheels of government grinding to a halt. The other thing we have in
We
your...
can hold off signing this?
You can sign it, but we'll take another vote when David comes in. I'm sorry, I forgot.
Okay.
Ed can't. We have the PCF for the police department, and I think you've seen...
It would have been in the finance committee's meeting tonight, but they unfortunately do not have they did not post the meeting.
But this is the contract.
That's Jeffrey Silva.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about.
Oh, well,
What did I say?
for the PCF, it's a different person.
Oh, there's a PCF. Well, I guess I was thinking this was a PCF, but it's an offer of employment to a David Silva as a police officer. I don't know whether you've seen.
Is this new? Is this what this is?
Yeah, that's it. Isn't it? Yeah. He's a young man, and it's the conditions of employment while he's a probationary police officer. What he gets and what he doesn't get, and what's covered and what's not covered. And
I've seen the name before, policy and procedures. I don't know if this one's been approved.
Yes.
Okay, I have no problem with that.
this is just this is the lack of a better word, engagement letter for him for employment from the chief, or not from the chief, from us now. All right. So, motion to sign.
Make a motion to sign Jeffrey Silver's, is it an appointment or,
Selection as a candidate for full-time police officer,
so it's an appointment?
I would say.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Okay, so that's that. Reggie, I somehow got that out of the wrong. So that's that. So now there is another PCF, right?
There is, but it's not going to be here tonight,
Okay, so
so
that-
I'll put it on October 30th.
That issue is done then. No reappointments or appointments, one-day licenses, none, nothing. Amendment to the town hall master plan, that's really got to come up at 7:30. Oh, are the assessors coming in about that Verizon on the Warren article?
If you, there's a summary in your packet. If you have questions, they will come in.
There's a summary in the packet?
I'm gonna do it on this one.
No, we'll see, before finance gets here to tackle that.
Can you give us a direction of where it might be?
I don't have it, Reg.
It's on page, well, it's not really marked page 10, but it's the 11th, 10th, and 11th sheet.
What's the title on it?
It's actually,
Is it be-
if you find your draft to your special town meeting,
Yeah?
it's after the minutes. And then you'll find the draft to the meeting. On the back side, you'll see what couple-minute page sent. Keep on going.
I get to say I'm blind, but I can't find it. Oh, here, October 3rd.
Yes.
It's on the back of Charlie McDonald.
On the back of Charlie.
Well, it's on the back of a letter, a note from Charlie. Behind, find the warrant.
Oh, the warrant's right here. Behind the warrant.
And there's your warrant, and there's your... We've recently been made aware of a reversal in a Verizon wireless tax assessment appeal. It has been determined that certain Verizon property
prior to this tax was not taxable, which of course means that they're entitled to an abatement. 499. I guess we'd like an explanation.
Where is
Would.
right here?
Yeah, there's a lot of money,
Put this up.
which is
Because
going to
cut
take another wall to
free cash.
It's behind the
Free
warrant.
cash keeps going on and on here. Do we have any
The other
ideas?
thing too is
Except
this,
for that I'm putting the levy money back in.
It's hard to find.
put what in?
Levy money back in.
Oh, okay. You have enough to
I have enough
offset?
to cover that, I do.
Oh, okay. Well, we still don't want to give it
So
up.
it's in and out for the same
Like this.
department?
Yes.
Okay. And that's-
But if we weren't paying it out, would we still be putting money in
Behind
and
the
not
warrant.
paying it out?
and
Yes.
So we're,
Yeah.
in a whole, in a sense, we're,
I just
You're just
started.
putting it in and taking it out. But I would be putting the money in
if we didn't have to give this
If
money
we didn't have
back,
to give this money
we'd be
back, correct.
$16,000 ahead or 16 or some number ahead.
yes.
Do we have any idea what free cash is?
No, but I'm gonna be done by the end of the month. Because my Schedule A is due and I'm gonna be done.
Mike, I'm sorry for being late.
That's okay.
What's the gist of this?
We evidently lost an abatement or appeal with Verizon and they're getting,
No, what happened was the Department of Revenue, in their reading of one of, I guess, the new legislation, gave instructions to all the towns how to deal with the Verizon power lines, whatever, and equipment. We followed what they told us to do, and then Verizon sued, lost, appealed, and won. So now all the towns that have Verizon owe money.
So it wasn't really, we're not
When's the money due?
called.
Do we pay them over 10 years?
No, apparently we're supposed to use our abatement money, we have a limited time to respond.
What's the limited time?
I'm not sure, was it in the documentation? There was gonna be a meeting, they were gonna get back to us, they had the meeting, the Department of Revenue has not gotten back to us yet.
Do we need to act on this right tonight, or can it wait?
No, I think we need to wait until we hear more, but when we do hear more, we'll have to act very quickly.
oh, all right, so there's no action. Is there any chance that another appeal is going to be taken to a
I
higher?
think they are, but the Department of Revenue is saying they will probably lose.
What is the appeal on? Poles or property?
All their equipment, something, the new law that went into effect is actually good in 2010. I believe this is 2009 bills that were.
Yeah, that's what this says.
Yeah.
Right.
Excuse me, it's just for the poles and wires on public ways.
On public ways.
Do you get a list of that now?
We get their form list.
Okay. Does anybody verify it? I mean,
We accept what they report.
okay.
So we need to put this in the budget. I mean, it's going to come out of cash reserves. I mean, there's not any question that we owe it.
No, and I
We
think
just
there's
have to-
some money in our overlay account, but something about the accountant thought it should come out of free cash.
I would wait, I wouldn't pay this right off the bat, I would wait.
Well, we're not being asked to pay it.
We're being charged interest on the money that we owe when they eventually decide that it's.
But we don't have any direction from you, your department yet to,
Well, I mean, Janine, what did they say? They were gonna wait till, there was a meeting and then they would get back to us and they haven't gotten back to
We
us?
had a meeting October 9th,
Who's they?
Boston and Verizon.
Boston who?
The city
State
of
of-
Boston.
The city of Boston.
Because they were actually, what Verizon was doing is they were appealing the Commissioner of the Department of Revenue's taxation of personal property. And like Judy said, first Verizon lost, and then they appealed it, and then they won. And we sent you a letter in September.
October 3rd.
Okay,
It's in their packet.
okay.
I would like to see what their official statement is before we jumped on this spot, but if it does come in and we have to move fast.
Right,
we have
because
to
of the
do it
interest.
Now, is the Attorney General involved with this?
I'm assuming this has to do with the new tax that the Commonwealth put on the poles and property.
So do we want to, I mean, is it worth talking to our attorney to see what we're,
Probably, yes, that was the Department of Revenue's recommendation.
so if we talk to Copeland Page?
So we should- they want us to talk to they're going to go after this on a town-by-town basis?
I guess.
No, well, I think, wasn't Boston the lead in this suit? And whatever happened to Boston, it fell down to everybody else.
Exactly.
That's what I think what it was.
Exactly.
And this had to do with the new legislation about taxing all poles in municipalities. And I think it starts in 2010, the assessments?
Fiscal year 2010. So this is for fiscal year 2009. And the letter we got from the Verizon's attorney was if we paid this almost $17,000, then they would withdraw their
Fiscal year 2008.
right, for 2008.
My suggestion is, the letter you received, let's get a copy of it, send to town council,
Yeah.
get their input, while we're waiting for the definitive answer from the courts, and then we'll be postured to deal with it properly.
think
Okay,
that's-
just so that you're aware too, they're charging 8% interest on this.
Yeah, but if the
Loan
decision
sharks.
flips and you've sent them a check, good luck getting it back. So I
What would
think,
you recommend? Let's say, since the outcome is we owe it, we're getting 8% interest, if you could just tell us what you would do at this point.
Well, I guess the Department of Revenue is feeling as if they've lost and they don't plan on winning. There might be maybe some agreement made, but
Why don't we get the letter, get it to town council, if this is gonna get paid, let's pay it sooner rather than later.
Right, that's what I'm
Get a
saying.
reading from town council, pay the darn thing, and with the understanding that if we pay it and they somehow lose on the next go-around, can we get our money back? If we can, okay, if we can't, then no.
Well,
We don't
I'm
pay.
I'm looking at it, and I agree with Mike saying is, but if the city of Boston's going after it, they have a lot more to lose than we do.
Right.
And if they're the lead case, you're talking millions and millions of dollars that they're gonna be assessed, and I think they're gonna do due diligence on that. And I think, one way or the other, whatever happens there, it's gonna be a fallout with us, but I say give everything, like Mike says, to the town council. We're positioned, and when we get a definitive answer from the courts or whoever's handling this, we'll have our answer ready.
I agree. I would agree.
What mechanism are we gonna, well, you'll have to put through your paperwork for an abatement then, like we normal, so you'd send us the normal paperwork on an abatement, and we'd pay a warrant for,
because it's back to 2009.
Fiscal year 2009. The money was in the overlay, but then once Verizon lost.
or are we gonna need a town meeting to pay this bill?
What if they don't?
That's another thing's vote.
And we're
What if
gonna-
it doesn't
It's not a
pass?
bill, though, it's an abatement.
No. That's what we need the the attorney.
We need, yeah, so that's one of the questions that you need, when you talk to town attorney, we need to know whether we need a town meeting to pay this, since it's a pass-through, or because it's an abatement, do we skip that
We
procedure?
didn't give you a letter because it was
Yep.
okay, it was all
We got
written in
this
the
letter.
letter.
All we got is a very brief letter.
Oh, we didn't give them a copy of the letter?
I can get a copy. of the
Yes,
letter.
because it said right in there that.
Well, she's gonna need that to send to the accountant.
Yes.
Or the attorney, I'm sorry. But you helped us clarify this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
Now we know what's happening.
Oh, it does, it says on the next special town meeting, we would like to place this on the next special town meeting, right there.
Where is that? Do we
A
read?
little short letter that we have.
Yeah, it says last paragraph.
Oh, yeah, the
These
last sentence.
questions we're asking right now, the citizen's gonna ask us. If we don't have an answer,
Yeah.
there's
They're gonna
not-
vote.
We're faced with needing an appropriation.
All right, well, here's a question. Do you want to put this on the town meeting warrant, and then we'll pass it over? It's because if we don't do it this week, when do we have to have the,
October 30th.
October 30th?
Yeah,
Here's a-
I like that idea.
Put it on the
We'll
warrant
pass over if we have to.
if we have to. So draft an article to pay this,
Okay.
but at the town meeting, you need to ask the town attorney if that's what we need to do.
Okay.
Will the town attorney be at the town meeting or not, or is that just, they're just gonna be at the?
Usually, we can either have them there or put them on phone standby. We've done both over the years. And that's something we need to talk about, whether we want them there or not.
When is the special town meeting? I lost track.
November 20th.
So we have some time.
Yeah, so, but they'll either be on availability for telephone and/or they'll be in person.
Depends on how complicated the other warrants are, we know what this
Yeah.
is about.
The only complicated one is the,
Did you already go through the warrants for it?
no. Let me see where we're picking up here.
So just to, I have about $23,000 in overlay from 2010 and 2011.
So the question,
That can pay for this.
so the question is, can we vote that out of overlay here, or do we have to go to town meeting?
Yeah, see, I don't have any.
That's a question
That's
for
the question.
One question you could help us with, if you could talk to DOR, who's the expert in it,
that's
talk to
what I
them,
did, yep.
and ask them, because of this ruling, can we take this money that from a prior overlay
Yep.
and shift it to the current, this overlay bill that we're getting from Verizon. And it'll give us answers on both ends here.
Okay, we
Because I
don't,
did talk to Lori and told her, she came up to see me, and I did speak to her about how much I had for the overlay, so that it would cover the 17 some odd $1,000, so.
do we wish to, I'm sorry, hopefully.
No, I'm done, sorry.
Do we want to sign the presidential warrant, or do we want to, we did the contracts, do we want to do minutes?
Chairman's pleasure.
Let's do minutes, which is in your packet. You got a regular and executive, so obviously, I never, now that I think about this, do executive have to be approved in executive, or can we do them in an open meeting?
Can't talk about it.
Can't talk about it.
Talk about it.
So if there's a problem, you can't do anything with them.
I asked a question about the board members, such as Jess and Doug, if they're not here now, can they
Yeah.
approve the prior minutes? Can you all approve it? Yes.
Yes, yeah, we can. So,
Okay, let's see, was everybody here? Oh, I wasn't. Are we looking at October 9th
Yes.
minutes?
Where was I, October 9th?
No, I wasn't there.
Where was I?
oh, then we can't do them anyway. If the two of you weren't there, then we can't do them anyway.
You need Jackie here.
We need Jackie, there was only three of us.
Same thing
You
with the
need Jackie for
executive.
both
So the
sets.
same thing with the executive, so they'll have to go back on the,
Was that a goofy time one? Was that like the early in the day or something?
no,
No, it was regular time.
regular time.
You had a board
At
meeting.
work.
You were at work. Yeah,
I
you had a
called
board
right?
meeting.
Can I call you?
Yeah, you called me. You called me. You were at a board meeting, David. All right, so we can't do the minutes, so let's skip down to sign the presidential election warrant, original in the signature folder. I didn't,
Sorry.
did I screw that up and mix them in?
This is for David to sign, right?
Yes. Oh, here it is. I took it out. We have an election warrant.
Election warrant.
I don't know, do you want to look at it, or I mean, this comes to us from the Secretary of State's office, right? We don't really, we can't decide who's going to be on the ballot or not. We got 5 questions. This looks like that independent, repair facility laws. There's proposed question 1. The second would be,
I didn't have to be there.
no, I think assisted suicide.
Oh,
3,
okay, wait a minute, what page are we on?
we're doing the warrant.
Presidential warrant.
I don't know if it's in the packet.
Mike has it on a copy.
I got the only copy.
You got the only copy. Hmm.
It's in the packet, though.
It is in the packet?
Is it?
Where?
Is there any concern? I mean, isn't it just typical state?
We don't get to,
Oh, by the state.
we don't have a say on it.
No, it's just the state kicks it out and throws it at us.
We have to call for the election, but
It's right, Jim. Just doing some housekeeping. Do we
So-
just want to, I'll just make a motion to approve, if you'd like to.
that would be good.
Can I just-
Yep, you can see. Is there a second?
Second.
Does anybody want to make nominations for president or something?
I hereby nominate, no,
There's 5,
Assisted suicide.
yeah, I think that's what I was reading, 5 questions. Tell me if I read that quickly wrong.
There is 5.
You got it? Oh, here it is.
First of all, it eliminates state criminal and civil penalties for the medical use of marijuana. State, yay, Massachusetts.
We really don't have any say on these are
No.
done by petition.
right. Beyond us.
I wonder if we should read just for the public's sake, what the,
Go right ahead.
Go ahead, Dan.
all of them?
You're the clerk.
Well, you asked to.
You asked, summarize them.
Summarize, thanks.
The summary only takes 5 pages, so.
That's the summary already. I'm just going to read question 1. Law proposed by initiative petition. Question 1. Do you approve of a law summarized below in which no vote?
Refer them to the state.
It's the right to repair.
So where can they find this document?
It's the right, number one is the Right to Repair Act for your car.
The right to what?
Repair.
Repair your car.
Wherever
Okay.
you want.
Right to repair your car.
Right.
Second one is allowing a terminally ill patient to request medication to end their life.
That's what I read.
Right. So
The
it's
pros
assisted
law-
suicide. They have to do it themselves.
The proposed law states that the patient would ingest the medicine in order to cause death in a humane and dignified manner.
Death with dignity. Okay, the
Probably better
third
than-
one. This proposed law would eliminate state, criminal, and civil penalties for the medical use of marijuana
right.
by qualifying patients.
Right.
And number 4,
Something to do with Hampshire County government.
Hampshire County government. Can you get through that?
Hampshire County government, you're talking about HCOG?
Yeah.
Is redoing their charter, or whatever,
Yeah.
and they're changing a few things, including representation.
Well, altered titles of Chief Administrative Officer and Chief Financial Officer, correct typographical errors and inconsistencies within the charter. You sound terrible.
Grandchildren.
And the final
Teacher
question
decision.
is question 5. This question is not binding. Shall the state senator from this district be instructed to vote in favor of a resolution calling upon Congress and the President to prevent cuts to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and veterans benefits, or to housing, food, and unemployment assistance? And 2, create and protect jobs by investing in manufacturing, schools, housing, renewable energy, transportation, and other public services. Oh God, and one more, 3, provide new revenues for these purposes and to reduce the long-term federal deficit by closing corporate tax. This is like just something, the thought of the Congress, or the, what do you call it?
With the will
Yeah,
of the
remember,
people.
these are all done by
People?
petition.
These are the will of the people.
God.
Enough so as to get them on to the,
So we have a motion and a second, do we have a
any
vote?
further discussion?
Do you have to name the people up for election?
I hope not.
Okay.
Hopefully by now, the people with interest know, but I don't, if you want me to, I will.
No, I'm fine. I don't think we're required, other than signing this.
All right, so we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
You all get to sign this.
We all do?
Presidential election. Is this the first one? What's the second one? No.
So,
We must have signed the one, you and I must have signed at least one more. All right, so we did the presidential election. Upcoming events, October 23rd and 30th. We're back on an every Tuesday night meeting schedule,
Why?
because we got so much to do that we aren't getting through it.
Okay.
We sooner or later have got to tackle fire chief, town administrator, veterans agent.
The Veterans Day, it's gotta come up sooner.
Yeah.
We have to post that job.
And,
we could.
huh?
Veterans Day,
Yeah, but is Rich on his?
Board of Health.
Board of Health is?
that one's already closed. That one closed on the 14th.
Okay. What about for inspector? Okay. All right, so, and are we gonna get to those tonight? Are those on the agenda for tonight?
Well, I
They're on
thought
the
we
agenda.
were going to have a full quorum.
Oh, that's right, too.
on these.
Jackie's
I mean,
not-
You know, I'd really like to see a full quorum work on these.
All right, so we are going to talk about those 3 positions on October 23rd, if Lord be willing and the creeks don't rise again. Okay, so we have the special town meeting on November 20th. We're gonna add an article now, Reggie?
It's actually already on your warrant.
What is,
You're talking about adding an article. I already put it on there on your draft.
for Verizon?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So the articles are the Greenway, CPC housekeeping article that we always do to transfer the third and the third and the third, or I think it's the quarter, the quarter, the quarter. Transfer funds from free cash back to the dump account, which we should have never taken. Your article is here, on here, but I didn't see it on the
Yeah, well, we just.
highway department article.
Those are not on
For
there.
special town.
No, they're not on there.
No.
My iPad's battery is dead.
Of not knowing what free cash
Battery, I
is
did put it
or
on the charger.
what the status is, whether we're gonna get it, the balance of the free cash, or not what we're gonna get it, what the balance is of the free cash. So I did not put those on there as of yet, but we still,
So we should put them on, and then we'll just have to either pass over them or do them.
Well, we're not done with the union contracts. That's
No, so we can't do anything with that.
I'd wait until
Well, one
free
thing is-
cash is declared on even the highway articles.
Yeah, but then if we declare if we put the article on the warrant now, and we get free cash numbers November 15th, we can deal with it at town meeting
Yeah,
rather.
but I don't think free cash is certified by that.
No?
They don't certify free cash within a month. I know they don't.
No, they don't.
So we can't do it.
From what I heard last, from the Department of Revenue, they only had 3 or 4 towns of however many towns Joe Boudreau had of final numbers, and it takes him a long time to go through his free cash, so.
Well, should we just put it on there just in case? And we can just pass it over. We can tell the town we don't have certified free cash, so we can't deal with it.
That's fine. All 3 articles.
Put all of them on there and just, through something happens, we can deal with them rather than declaring another town meeting and going through that expense again. Yeah, whatever happened with Smitty's, we signed that, but it came back a problem because of something they were doing.
ABCC denied it because in their investigation, they found that the business owners did not follow the tax laws. But according to their attorney, who had a conversation with our representative from ABCC, according to this attorney, stated that they made a mistake. However, we did not get anything in writing, so until we do so, the attorney, Mr. Carey, asked me to postpone it to October 30th so that we can get additional information.
Okay. And at 7:30, we were going to take up Finance Committee, Town Accountant, and Hank for the Master Plan Committee, and at 7:35, would all interested parties please come forward, and we need to talk.
On the finance committee, and obviously we can't, there was a snafu in the schedule, I apologize for that, I'll take responsibility. But I talked to the other members, and we're willing to convene next week, if you're gonna be here,
Yes.
to meet again. So you give us a time and we'll be here.
7 o'clock?
Can I get back to you?
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
working with dispatchers and police.
Oh, all right.
It was our fault, so you tell us when.
Okay.
But you know the long and short of what our problem is, right?
I read what long and short was.
So we need funding for the Master Plan Committee. We were looking at stabilization as the only place to take this.
Yeah. Operational or?
I think we were looking at capital, weren't we?
We don't know how much is in there.
Planning committee?
They come out of, just blanks. Virginia Ahart's,
Huh?
No, it can't come out of that.
come out of that. Was that-
CPA money.
Yeah, that's because it was on the
I thought
capital
open
plan,
space
so the
planning,
thought.
some of that money came out of that, the CPA. I thought open space, some of that money came out of CPA.
That was open space. This is not open space.
That's not this.
But that open space is part of the master plan, that's all.
Yeah, it is part of it, but we've been carrying on the, you have a sheet on your packet on the back of,
You can't download the,
right here, you have a sheet,
Okay.
the capital plan.
did we run out of money or something?
No, we forgot to fund it.
Never
this
got put in the budget.
year. Never got-
Master plan?
Yeah. And they need $20,000 to complete the work. And we don't have the money because
Oh, come on.
It's all accounted for.
it's all accounted for.
You gotta be kidding me.
We didn't put it in the budget.
Why did they get?
We dropped the ball, no other way to say it.
So we're having to get it from.
We need to get it from stabilization, free cash, or wherever you choose, but
Right now, I have $132,000 in capital stabilization.
capital stable. How much is in the other one?
122,000. Basically, we have the carryover from FY12, the $100,000 that was appropriated at the last special time meeting to each of those funds, and then also the $33,000 for the police car that was appropriated at the town meeting in May. And then there's a little bit of interest that has been posted for FY13 so far.
So we got
132,000 in capital, 122,000 in operating.
Hank, when do you need the money? When is that needed?
Well, we PVPC people will be at our meeting this Thursday.
Okay.
But then, I guess, they've come to the end of the budget and of the funds. The next meeting was scheduled for the 15th. Obviously, that can be put off if we have to have, I mean, when is the town meeting scheduled?
November 20th.
November 20th.
Okay, well, we can, you know, we can compress things. But there's still a good deal of work to be done.
So the money would be actually going to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. That's where the money's going to. is the
That's where it
plan.
ultimately goes
Can
to.
we make out a billing, can we payment plan or something with them? And I mean, I'm just,
Well, we gotta come up with the 20 somewhere, and if we come up with it by November 20th, I don't think they'll have a problem waiting for us or doing work and getting in anticipation of. But how does it, I know you can't speak, how does the little representative finance committee that's here tonight, how does the finance committee feel about taking the 20 from,
Reserve?
out of reserve?
Is that what you're saying? Oh, okay, I was gonna say, that they wouldn't feel well about that, but out of stabilization is fine. I mean, personally, I think operational, but either way, it's the two.
Well, because the only reason I said capital is because we were carrying it on the capital account,
Okay,
so I picked that one.
just depending on how many other, you know, any other capital requests, more cruisers?
I do not have any
Does
right now.
highway have anything?
I don't have anything, but I think Billy Cleaton needed to talk to you about something. I told him to go and see you. I don't
A
know
month or so
exactly.
ago, he saw us about staffing, and we
I
told.
think it had
him
something to do with
over
staffing, John. I'm not sure, but he just wanted to clarify it with you. He's very cautious on things. He wants to, I told him to talk to you.
It was paying for ambulance, staff, and we told him to pay the ambulance fund.
Mhm.
To talk to.
Now, if you look back at previous special town meetings and, you know, town meetings that were in the spring, all of this money that we've paid them for the master plan has been a warrant on those,
Correct.
and they've been transferred from the stabilization fund in order to pay for those. So
Correct.
it's kind of being consistent with what we've done in the past.
I think that was the plan anyway, that every year 20,000 would put this over for 4 years or 3 years, whatever would.
this is the last year, right, Hank? Is this it? You're gonna nail
Well, the calendar that they propose, the plan ultimately has to be approved by the planning board. It doesn't take a town vote. And they propose a March or April planning board hearing and vote. And then following that, and I'm not sure whether this was in the original contract or not. I can find out Thursday night. Implementation committee goes into action, and some work on zoning gets done. But I'm not sure whether they're just extending that or whether that was in the original contract, frankly. I was just a member of the committee and got elected chair. I had nothing to do with the negotiation of the contract or anything to do with the money.
it? So I want to thank you, because I know this has been going on for about 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
A long time.
And my hat's off to you, sir, because it's taken us so
So
drive to do it.
this would add another article to town,
It's already in your draft warrant.
okay. So transfer $20,000 from the stabilization account
It makes sense that that's where it came from, just continue.
Yes.
to the master plan committee for completion of the master plan. All right, any,
Put it on next week's agenda for official
all right,
backing.
Is the town warrant gonna be done with all the articles next week?
no, well, it might be done next week.
Or is it, it's 2 weeks, right, beforehand?
Yeah, it has to be signed on October 30th.
Okay.
But you already have
Yeah.
a draft, so I can add the articles as we go.
So-
Take them off.
A word of caution is we need a quorum here
Yeah.
November 30th. You cannot not be here on the
Wow.
30th because that's the last,
October 30th. yeah.
October 30th is, we have to sign it that night.
You need a quorum to sign it?
3 of us.
Oh, 3 of us, not the majority.
So, I mean, it would be good to have everybody here, but 3 bodies have to show up.
Can you remind us about 3 bodies?
We're not fussy about which 3 either.
3 bodies.
3 bodies.
Okay? Anything else on that issue? Anything else on that issue? Anything else on that issue? I think we're done. Moving on.
Hank, say hi to Ted. Hank, say hi to Ted for me.
If that works for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Work for you.
All right, so we don't have a, did I miss anything? Oh, we could not, wait a minute, we could come, no, we can't do that, because he wasn't here.
So that will go on the agenda next week, the final vote with the finance committee here, and
Yes.
Well, now we don't need the finance committee, we'll just put it on the warrant, we'll vote on the warrant article next week
okay.
to sign
But I
them.
thought,
The final vote was on October 30th.
the chair who just came in here for the finance committee was gonna come in next week too.
No, he needs to get, they need to take a vote in their committee to either support or
Oh, okay.
not support.
They didn't have a
Quorum.
proper notification.
Okay.
Or, yeah, they didn't have a proper posting. Am I missing anything? Did I miss anything?
We signed everything here.
How about the, you wanna, do we get the final draft back from the article on the Greenway?
It's in your, there's a draft
Complete
warrant.
form, or is
in
it
your
crossed out
packet.
form?
So, Mike, what was the upshot with the agreements? I was sort of like out of the loop a little bit.
What's that, David?
What's the upshot on the article for the Greenway? Where do we stand with that?
It's here. It's gone through many revisions.
Okay. What's
And-
the upshot, the cost of the town and stuff?
Well, if you read it, we're gonna take CPC money of 135.6.
Okay,
We're gonna borrow 224.4,
okay.
Pay for the grant.
but to cover until the grant comes, right? Cover until the grant comes
Borrow
And then-
from
on the bond market.
Bond, so it's
Okay.
not
Tell them about that today.
She never called me back.
So, as of right now, we're gonna put 135 in, borrow 224, and hopefully get 224 back.
from a grant. Okay.
But if we don't get the grant, that's what you were trying to clarify, if we don't get the grant.
And Reggie said she's got the phone call into the account, to the lawyer in regards to a question I had about how the verbiage is. Because I was just worried that we would borrow and we wouldn't get reimbursement. Then we would be stuck to bond that for 20 years, but it's all predicated on receiving the grant.
Right.
I want to make sure the article reflects that.
So the article states, in a nutshell, that we're gonna borrow $224,000, and we're waiting for a grant to pay that off.
Correct.
If we don't receive the grant, then we don't borrow the money.
They have to start all over again and find
We have
out.
to start all over. So it all predicates on
Right.
somebody getting us this grant. So who's in charge of that?
Charlie and,
No, who's in charge of the grant allocation?
Charlie McDonald.
Sorry, it's my wife.
All right?
I think he's asking executive office, EOEEA.
No, he's asking who's chasing the grant.
Charlie McDonald.
That's my understanding.
Charlie is the one, yeah.
It's my understanding that's what he's asking. is
So could you just go over those figures again? CP funds,
135,000
135,000.
in round numbers.
If we get the grant, we can go for the bond,
We have to do a short-term borrowing.
borrowing
To borrow the
224,000.
224.
Okay.
So we can proceed, but we can only do that if the grant is awarded to us.
And the grant will be for,
The same.
224.
oh, also?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why it matches.
Oh, I
So
got it.
if there's any out-of-pocket from the town, I think the easiest way to say this is we're trying to, if there's little or no out-of-pocket from the town, the plan goes forward. If there's an significant out-of-pocket expense to the town, the Greenway gets frozen.
I got it.
And that is everyone-
I apologize.
That's all right, you just get a better dial tone.
Oh,
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I think she pocket dialed, I'm sorry.
Is that like a quack, quack?
When you're in a patient's room and your phone goes off, if it quacks, they tend to smile more than if it just rings.
Psychological stuff.
I'm smiling.
Anything else then?
I would really like to get 5 of us here to start doing this work on these job descriptions.
Yeah.
Do you, and sometimes, do you want to set up a subcommittee of a couple of, like, 3 selectmen to actually just get that done and sort of free up some of the time here?
That's fine if you guys want to do that.
Is that, or, I mean,
Well, I don't think there's a lot of deviation from it, because I do think there was the work been done on these job descriptions we already had. We need to evaluate and look at them and say, are these what we want?
Tweak them.
do we have copies that can be sent out on these things?
Reggie's got them an email to everybody.
Okay, so if we go through them ourselves and and edit them ourselves and then get them back. So when we sit down to talk, we just don't, you know, a lot of stuff's already covered.
No.
I have no problem of 3 people getting together. But we would have to still bring that to the full board to.
Yeah, just, yeah.
But I mean,
But if 3 people get together, you have to open the meeting.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It'd be an open meeting,
But
but
3 of us here would be an open meeting, yes.
yeah.
but anyway, Reggie has sent them out, and the thing to bear in mind is there's a fire chief that you and I were involved in originally.
Yeah,
There's a,
the MRI thing we went through.
right, then there's a town administrator thing, but there's 2 of those, right? Is there
I think there's 3 versions,
3 versions of that?
or 3 versions of fire
Three
chair.
versions of the fire, 2 of the town administrator.
3 of fire, so.
Okay,
So you just gotta, you know, we made alterations over time on them, so you need to review them.
okay.
The town administrator report, we voted to change, I think in
I think it was when I was off. I took the,
February or something, before you came back on, we voted to amend that.
okay.
So,
But with all those versions, is there a latest version that we could go from? I mean, are these versions better, progressive?
The only,
So the old version is...
I've looked at all the versions,
Okay.
and I was involved with putting the main version together, which everything's off of,
Okay.
which is a committee of several townspeople and boards.
Which one are you talking about? Ed?
What's that?
Which,
Town administrator.
we're talking about town administrator, okay.
And
A number of
that
years ago.
was not too long ago,
2005.
2005 or 6.
2005.
And there was finance committee, selectmen on it, I was on it, Dave Silvernail was on it, and 3 at-large citizens.
And
Okay,
we should go with that one.
that one's there, and the other one are offshoots of it. I think there's some minor tweaking that was in there.
The only difference between the 2005 and the 2012, or 2011, is the vote that was taking place from the board members of April of 2012 when they changed the minimum qualifications. That's the only difference between those 2 job
in April,
descriptions.
we voted to eliminate the requirement of a 4-year degree.
So one of the things, though, what I've always, my experience of pre-town administrator board and how it functioned, administrator board, I think there's some issues about operations that I would want to look at that sort of brings in some change I think might help, in my own experience.
You're looking at job description.
Well, I think in the job description,
Please.
the town administrator, in the job description, certain areas, and I would want to look at it and go back in my mind and see what was some of the hang-ups that happened, some of the snafus, and how we could sort of,
That's what we want to resolve
Yeah.
in these meetings. It really shouldn't take us a ton of time to do them. I mean,
Especially if we
Reggie,
looked at them
Beforehand.
Reggie sent them out to us, you all have them. The only thing to note is that on the town administrator one, there was a change in whether or not a 4-year degree was going to be required. I don't remember the fire chief one, but the point of that one was, you especially have bounced around the idea of whether we go back to a part-time chief or something vice versa.
I think that's a discussion we should have, and
Right. To keep that as an open-minded discussion and make a resolution one way or another. We're either gonna stay where it is, or we're gonna go backwards or forwards, or whatever we're gonna do.
right now I'm sort of leaning towards not a full-time fire chief. But I still have to work through the process of what I think is appropriate.
Right. So that's the point of that. And simply, if we get in here and you say you're okay with a full-time fire chief or not, that one we can probably.
Well, what I would do is I would make some points for an argument so that you understand why I'm making a decision.
But I mean, that one's relatively simple.
Right, but there was an issue about the strong chief law. Was that something?
That has to be voted by town.
meeting.
Voted
Town
out.
meeting, okay.
No. I mean, I personally, I was thinking that maybe a part-time was that, but after seeing what's going on and how it's developing now, I would probably come with arguments against part-time, but for full-time. You know, but I mean, this is a good debate to have.
Yeah, I mean, there's positives and thinking about vision.
Even talking about this town administrator, I know certain members voted out the 4-year degree. I'm strong, I have strong feelings about having a 4-year degree in there. We're talking about a professional, we're talking about education, we're talking about having the base elements to run this job, and I do believe education is a key to this.
And you get the veterans agent, which should be fairly routine. The only thing we have to decide on the veterans agent is whether we're gonna go it alone or go
in with somebody or?
Well, what's the board's take on that right now? I mean, can we
We
sort
have
of
this
just,
gentleman that was here, Henning, is that the right name?
Yeah, Mr. Henning, but you've already voted on that job description.
Right.
You voted on that on September 18th.
Oh, okay.
all right, so has that been posted then?
No, it's actually going through the hands of the finance committee.
So that one's done.
That
job
one's done. So
description.
you just have the two, and then going back on the fire chief, there's 3 different versions of the fire chief's job description.
Yeah, and there was a whole process.
We have the original one, and there was 2 done by.
Was MRI.
You brought in
The
MRI.
MRI, it was
They had 2
MRI.
versions,
Right.
and most of the version is somebody needed 5 to 7 years of experience versus 3 to 5. And somebody needed to be a paramedic versus a basic, we need to look at that, and what other towns are requiring for us to make that decision. I mean,
Well, and the other thing is, if you're gonna think about repealing the strong chief law, then that's gotta be done at a town meeting and November 20, and if you wanna do it, the article's already drawn somewhere, because we did it 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
yeah,
I
I'm not
would-
sure, we should bring that up right now. I think we should discuss this, but that's my opinion.
The strong chief law, I think, has its good and bad.
Right. So,
And
And it's not
so,
like pressing that we have to do this.
well, I
In my
mean,
mind, no.
I agree with you, it's not pressing, and I'm not advocating for it at all, I'm just
Right.
neutral at this point in time, but if you're going to do it, the time to do it is before you put a new chief in there, for a number of reasons. One, if the intention is that we're in control, then you want to do that before the new chief goes in. And I'm not saying I'm in favor or not in favor of the strong chief law, but if you're going to do it, I think you should do it before you make the new chief.
And when is his
Well, that's,
due date?
Well, hopefully, I think we were all thinking that, we should do something before December 29th.
okay.
Because, just to bring you an update, policy and procedures now, along with finance, have dug their heels in. They don't want to renew the interim positions.
And I
They did not renew the interim position for administrator. So that, we have a little bit of an issue there, but we still have to function, as far as I'm concerned. And the fire chief,
Well, there were some issues with the fire chief, with the former fire chief. There were certain behaviors or actions that I felt were not in the best interest of the town, although a choice could be made by a department head, and I wouldn't want to look back at the job description and say, hey, look, you have to be part of the Chiefs Association. If you're not a part of the Chiefs Association, boom, this has to happen. I mean, there has to be some more tightening up, because there was a little bit of,
I understand what you're saying.
then that's why I would look at it, per se, is to make sure some of those things were in accountability was.
I think we ought to pull out that, if you could find that old town meeting book, article and see, I think there was a short synopsis of what one versus the other was
On the strong chief.
on the strong chief. So when we're talking about this, we know the difference,
Right, because I'm not clear about what.
what
the
one
difference-
gives.
The implications. of
Right,
that.
so let's pull that out. Not saying we're putting the article on, but let's pull it out.
And discuss it and find out what it is.
My understanding, it does give
And the
the,
other thing too is, it might be healthy to have this discussion with the current chief. I don't know what your feelings are, find out how things are going. Is he having management problems? Is the need there? A lot of the strong chief was for management problems.
right, but I think we still need to sort of step back and say, this is not specific to Acting Chief Kalita. This is more specific to a function of the fire department and the difficulties we had in the past, since 2004, 2005, the things that sort
Right, you
of
mean, you
lost.
should always write job descriptions for the position, not for the person in it.
I will tell you that citizens of town have genuinely expressed they're very satisfied with Chief Kalita's handling of the situations as they've come up now. Much improved. Things are getting done proactively. People aren't having to seek something out to get done. He's doing them before, he's anticipating people's needs and that sort of thing.
That's good, David.
Great.
Other departments.
Now, where are we with the fire and, the highway and the police contracts? Where are we with those?
The
This-
highway contract, it was left here that the union was going to get a hold of me. They have yet to get a hold of me. I'm
Okay.
accessible, and I've told this to it twice, time to get a hold of me. That has not taken place. We're not off. I think what we need to discuss is the percentage, and that's it.
Is that
They
something that's?
wanted some other things, but I think we said no. and you guys agreed to the, you know, the other items, but those are in private sessions or an open session.
I know it's executive. Do you want to send a letter to the highway union saying, hey, look, we want to wrap this up, please come back to us with, you know, what's going on, get them back on the agenda, get them back on board and get this thing done?
We can do that, or Reggie can give
What do you
them a
think,
call.
Mike?
I've already called them to find out what's going on, and...
Maybe send them a formal letter saying, look,
Okay, I'll do that.
all right. And then the police, are we in the same sort of position with the
No,
police?
the police,
No.
the police officers, it's ratified. The dispatchers are coming back on the next week, and they just have one item, and we're close.
Okay. Just want to wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, police are done, the dispatch should be done, highway is out to lunch.
Find out, yeah.
While we're doing this, I know the highway's out to lunch. But on the other thing too, is I'd like to deal with the non-union people too, before we finalize the number and go to town meeting with.
Yeah, I think what happens when we do all the contracts, I think we're going to come up with some numbers for raises and such, and I think that should benefit the non-union.
We should be able to handle this whole thing as one.
Right.
What are you thinking, this town meeting or another town meeting?
Well, it'd be nice this town meeting, but I don't think we're ready.
And that's the kind of letter that the highway department, the highway contract union needs to know that they're holding up the non-union as well, and then we want to get this done.
Because I'm not gonna, I as a selectman don't want to come in there with 4 different questions for 4 different unions.
Right.
Or labor units.
Do it all at
I
once.
want to do it all at once.
Well, I mean, we very well may have another special town meeting in January, February then.
I'm sure we won't.
We have a lot on the agenda.
Well, we're gonna have to have a meeting to accept free cash.
Right.
Right, so that's what, December-ish they're talking?
You run into December, I think you're gonna run into attendance problems, but I may be wrong. I mean, I think you'd probably be better off pushing it into January than for me,
After the holidays.
after the holidays. I
One
mean,
question we have, and I know what Vicki was talking about, and I'm sorry I give you my back, Reggie,
No,
but
that's okay.
when Vicki was here, she said she was gonna wrap up the end of the year numbers. We also have to have a meeting to sign off on the balances and negative, the pluses and negatives,
You gotta do the transfers.
you know, and that is coming up too, and that'll give us a number.
Okay.
End of year transfers, which usually we have done long ago. I don't ever remember doing them in,
Well, we've had,
We
you
missed,
know.
we
I
missed
think
it.
it would change, and we got permission, but we're doing these in July.
Right.
We were required to have them done by July 15th. Vicky called DOR, and they're on board, they're aware of where we are, and they gave her leeway.
Because of the transition?
Yeah.
Correct.
Are there any other issues lingering out there that we're not sort of,
Yeah, I want to know about your 10-day trip.
Where did you go?
where did I go? My wife and I rode our motorcycles to Alaska last June.
That's not the truth.
It wasn't a
It was
reason.
5 weeks, it was 9,000 miles round trip.
That's amazing.
Hearing any other business, please?
Mike, did you get your sailboat out?
My sailboat is on the hard.
So was it mine.
Anybody want to know about my Costa Rica trip?
Yes.
Yes.
The rainforest?
In the rainforest, you almost had one less selectman. I was walking in the rainforest, and there was a jumping pit viper
Ooh.
at my heel, awake, rolled up like a snake ready to go. But the guide said, as long as I didn't step on it, I'd be okay. If I stepped on it, I said what would happen, you would not survive. It was rolled up, we tiptoed past it, it was amazing. Very
I
exciting.
bet you were looking down ever since.
I have
Get out
a
of
new
here
respect
now.
about rainforests in Costa Rica,
Yes.
there's lots of poison
Yes,
out there,
there
so.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Good.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.